quality. That's why we're your home store. Home store. The way to make a home. The way to make a home.
Visit Healthcare Pharmacy's second location in Governor Square, servicing West Bay and the 7 Mile Beach Corridor with a care and professionalism you have come to expect from Healthcare Pharmacy. Healthcare Pharmacy in Governor Square also stocks a huge selection of Hallmark and shoebox greeting cards, vitamins, sunblock, last minute, and everyday needs. To refill and transfer your prescriptions, simply WhatsApp 329-7313 or visit healthcarepharmacy.ky or drop by Monday to Saturday from 9 till 6.
At Integra Healthcare, we're proud to offer the services of 2 expert dermatologists with extensive UK consultant experience. Our dermatologists specialize in skincare detection and management, general dermatology, pediatric dermatology, skin lesion evaluation, skin cancer identification, and a full range of clinical dermatology conditions. For appointments, you can visit integra.ky/dermatology or call 745-7450. Dermatology care as it should be.
Buy and sell practically everything online. ektrade.com is K-Man's online marketplace for goods, services, real estate, cars, and jobs. Go to where K-Man searches. Go to ektrade.com.
The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo FM.
And good evening, K-Man. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon, and welcome to Straight Talk right here on Bobo FM.
The phone lines are open. 745-2626 is the number. Or if talking isn't your thing, well, by all means, you can send us a WhatsApp message at 928-2562. But we are, well, you know, I think gremlins are at work today, Ellio, particularly as it relates to our technology.
We're just into the foundational stage, and that's just how it is.
That's just how it is. Well, normally on the WhatsApp line, we seem to be having some challenges today getting the WhatsApp, particularly to load on the desktop, which allows us, of course, to receive the audio notes from members of the public and then play them on the air. That's not loading at the moment. So if you were to send us a WhatsApp audio note, we wouldn't receive it. But you can send us a WhatsApp message in its place until such time that this computer or otherwise seeks to work with us. I think whilst we're on that point, we should say to our listening audience, particularly those who have been asking about the Facebook streaming. Our first hurdle was, of course, to get the 100 followers, but Meta has, I'm just going to say, moved the goalposts on us and have had, added a few other requirements. We're hoping to overcome those requirements relatively quickly, but I've been saying that all week, and I don't want to be made out to be a liar, so I'll just say soon come. We are working on it.
Yeah, soon come sounds like you know why we come up with soon come in the Caribbean,
That's right. For moments just like this. just like this.
It's just certain things you can't really calculate. You just have to say, hey, you kind of lick the finger, put it in the wind, see how it goes.
Indeed.
Soon come.
Soon come.
We'll see what happens.
We will. Well, we are brought to you live on Bobo FM on your radio dial as you make your evening commute home. But we are also simulcasting live over YouTube and Instagram. On Instagram, you can catch us by logging on to the Rec Room 345. And, of course, you can pick us up on Instagram, more than likely on your handheld device. Again, Facebook will soon come, and hopefully we will also be able to overcome our WhatsApp audio problem before the end of the show as well. But other than that, you can just pick up the phone and call us in the traditional way.
Yeah.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. And if I'm correct, you remind me, Austin, I think today is the third week. End of the third week.
End of our first third week, yes.
Just working right on that last lap for the first month.
That's right. That's right. Today is our 15th episode officially.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've been doing rather well. Certainly I want to say a great big thank you to the callers. We
Yeah.
seem to have at least one new caller on average every day this week.
Yeah,
So
they're
a new
growing.
voice on the side, so that's also very promising. They are certainly growing, and we do appreciate it and want to encourage it to obviously
Growing
keep coming
despite
in.
all of our technical challenges.
Despite all of our technical challenges.
And I'm not going to call any names, but it seems like you have a few persons that enjoy sending the voice messages on WhatsApp.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Just saying.
Yes, no, without a doubt. We have at least picked up at least one or two faithful contributors on WhatsApp audio. They've done so almost every day this week as well, and we want to thank them for it. But I will note that at least in one person's case, they're actually calling not from the island. So they're
That's
listening
right.
in.
That's right.
You know, from
Well,
overseas.
actually, I think both of them are actually off island.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah, I'm not a gambling guy, but yeah, I could put money on that one. I'm
All
pretty
right.
sure that
Well,
actually.
you'd probably win. You'd probably win. So we are
Thanks for that
grateful
vote of confidence.
for the listening audience tuning in. Again, these are Caymanians obviously tuning
Yeah.
in from abroad,
Yeah.
and wanting to stay abreast, as the case may be, on the things and issues that matter most here at home.
Oh.
In an environment of sexual harassment. I might
Wait.
have just committed a sin, huh, buddy? It is a word in the English language.
Austin, you're the one that did that jerk.
I did.
didn't
I know it was. I know it normally would be you, but this time, you see, you're starting to rub off on me, buddy.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
it's still your fault. I'm going to find a way to circle it back.
Blame it on me.
In your court.
Blame it on the rain. Yeah, blame it on me, Austin.
Blame it on you, buddy.
Well, I'll just let you know in the spirit of transparency exactly what happened there in case you missed it.
You want to do it again?
My colleague was saying staying abreast, and that's where he got his tongue stuck in his cheek or
Yes.
in his between his teeth, something.
Yeah, something.
I think it might be something in relation to the anti-sexual harassment discussion we were having yesterday, why he just stumbled over that word.
I did. Just, the mind automatically went to, oh my goodness, did I commit a faux pas?
I wanted to throw out that there's no space between the A and the, it's just one word, Austin.
Just one word.
Don't worry about it.
Though I will add, there's only two of us in the studio right now. So the way, if the notion of charges of anti-sexual harassment happened in this studio, something is
It's terribly wrong.
Terribly wrong.
It's almost impossible to sexually harass a real man. Yeah.
Really, I wasn't insulted, not at least.
We're
You can say
bulletproof.
nothing that would insult me right now.
Let me see if I get it right. She slapped me. No, not offended.
Not offended, not offended, not
Come
the
again
least.
tomorrow.
We're all fine, really. More, please, more. Let's stop while we're behind.
Yeah.
745
While we're behind, that's crazy.
26.
That's worse, Austin.
While we're behind, there we go again. We want to start out with some positive news.
That was
and
positive, man.
That was positive. It's getting harder and harder to find happy, positive.
By
social
the way,
news.
by the way, I did get someone text me yesterday, giving me the laugh out loud.
Okay.
I'm laughing at both of you guys up inside the studio. You're cracking me up. That's when we were talking about IDs and something like that.
Yeah.
And then I did get one on when we were having our sexual harassment discussion. Let me see if I can find that and read it.
Okay.
All right, let's see. It says, "Hi, Austin and Ellio." No, I didn't read this through, but I'm trusting that there's nothing, untowards in here.
Let's hope not.
Yeah. Let's take a risk.
Let's take a risk.
Hi, Austin and Ellio. On the sexual harassment bill, I feel that this does need to be looked into. However, as far as the members of the board, I believe we should have a good mix of persons, and in this regard, bracket, as it relates to the Cayman Islands, close bracket, I believe that the board should be balanced and in the favor of the Cayman Islands and Caymanian people. Again, bracket, taking the opinion of when in room, do as Romans do. Or in this case, I need glasses. You're not in your country. You now live in the Cayman Islands. So please respect the Caymanian people. However, seeing that we do have a very large mix of nationalities, the largest mix of any country in the world, arguably, we and all nationalities who currently reside in the Cayman Islands must realize that what is deemed as sexual harassment in one country might not be considered harassment in another country.
Right.
Therefore, this bill must be given great consideration and made sure that it represents the spirit of the Cayman Islands and is not biased towards other countries.
Okay.
I would hate to see a Caymanian be punished for being friendly and have to live in fear in their own country for being the kind and friendly people that our country is known for. On the other hand, I would not want any person, Caymanian or otherwise, to feel intimidated, harassed, or live in fear going to work, home, or the public domain because we have people who do not respect personal boundaries. So again, that's coming in, and I will say the gender of the author is a lady, by the way.
Okay.
So it's very interesting. Thank you very much for that. Greatly appreciate it. Didn't get to read it yesterday because it came in at 6:27. And I wasn't looking at my phone then. Even if I was, my colleague would probably be holding a finger up or something. Or fingers. Let me just do that so I don't get any misinterpretations there again.
That's right.
Holding up some fingers telling me how many seconds we had left. So that's it. And like I mentioned yesterday, someone texted and just sharing with us that he was laughing his head off as Austin and I were discussing all these issues, specifically, I think, around the time of dealing with the identification, shared his own pains of how he was being rejected on the whole ID issue and that it sounds crazy, or that it is crazy. All right, so the number here in the studio, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to call in, is 745-2626. That's 745-2626. And I sure hope everybody is trying to take time out to email a friend, text a friend, call a friend, and let them know that your two favorite host is here in the studio.
Yes, quite right.
Now, Austin, what good news have you found for us today?
Well, again, as I was saying, good news is kind of few and far between.
That's why it's so valuable. It's
That's why
hard
it's
to
so
find.
valuable. Yes. Well, Easter, as you know, Easter is approaching, quickly approaching. And Easter for us, otherwise spring break if you're an American, certainly, or a college student. That's the
Spring break used to
coming
be
up.
crazy.
Spring break is still crazy, particularly if you're in Miami and Florida. We'll talk about that as an aside. But here at home, your local flag carrier, Cayman Airways, is promoting Easter travel with extra flights. Cayman Airways will be adding a number of extra flights for travel in the 2025 Easter season. In particular, in addition to Easter flights for the airline's seasonal Montego Bay routes, they're adding multiple flights to Kingston, La Ceiba, and, of course, Miami, Florida. So if you're wanting to get away for a long weekend, again...
So is there a long... I mean, we always have a long weekend.
We always
There's
have
tons
a
of
long
those.
weekend for it. I think.
I certainly think we have too many holidays in Cayman, quite frankly, although I'm sure everyone listening will say, Ellio, what are you talking about?
Shush, don't say
Quiet
it.
down,
Say it,
quiet
be
down.
quiet.
I was on your side until you opened your mouth
until you
about
went
that.
down that road.
But I'm sure there's a long weekend there somewhere, like it's Good Friday or something,
Well, we always seem to have a number of long weekends
Mm-hmm.
and public holidays at the beginning of the year. Then it tapers off and goes away until like November, and then they
Yeah.
start up again.
Where's a good holiday when you need one?
Where's a good one? Well, again, we'll have an extra holiday this year because of the national elections on 30th of
Oh,
April.
that's right.
That will be a public holiday.
Although we want to make sure in state that we're not encouraging you to stay home that day.
No, we are absolutely not encouraging you
Go
to stay
vote,
home that
then
day.
stay home.
And with the list of candidates rising, as they say, rising like the tide in Cayman Brack, I think we're past 50 candidates, if my math is correct so far, including the on-the-fence premier, Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, who did retire, or should I say, let me rephrase that, stated her intention to retire at the last parliamentary meeting, but the rumor mill is abounding that she is going to be making a comeback, particularly to challenge her seat against Dan Scott, who is challenging also in her constituency. I suppose she doesn't want Dan Scott running unopposed, as would be the case, or was going to be the case with Miss Heather Bodden in Savannah, until
They brought out Donna.
yes, TV personality Donna Ebanks.
There's Donna Bush.
Donna Bush. Sorry, Donna, I should know better.
Where is your mind,
I should
Austin?
know better. Speaking of those colleagues in broadcasting or media, so you got Donna Bush from TV declaring, and I read yesterday that our good friend Sterling Dwayne Ebanks from
I saw that.
Talk Today on
Challenging Adrian, right? Is it Adrian or Andre? Andre.
Gee,
yeah.
Andre.
Okay.
Andre. Yes. Yeah. No, I didn't make a note of.
Yeah,
what constituency.
I think it's West Bay South. I guess there's someone else who says, I can't sit here and watch someone go like this unopposed.
Yeah,
No,
no.
it's so undemocratic.
Totally undemocratic.
Options, I'm thinking, options.
Indeed. So we have a number of candidates popping up, but in particular, I wanted to point out our good friend Sterling Dwayne. I know Sterling had been talking about it for some time. I know he'd been mulling over in his mind. This is not the first election cycle that he was considering it. And obviously, that's obviously the biggest first challenge.
Right.
You know, deciding to move forward, deciding to make that leap.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mentioned to him quite coincidentally when I was on the air last. I mean, he was one of the persons that inspired me to run. He ran when he was very young.
Okay.
And I remember as a younger man looking at Sterling's win and saying, wow, he's running. If he can do it, I can do it.
Right.
Of course, I didn't run at that time, but, inspired me. I probably ran the next time. Who knows? I can't remember all those details.
Right.
But it was very inspirational to actually see him run. And, seeing him run again, it highlights a challenge because you have a lot of persons.
So he did run before.
Yeah,
This is not his first time.
Yeah, he ran many moons ago.
Okay.
I
didn't know this.
A long time ago.
Okay.
So wishing him the best of luck. And again, chatting with him, I think it highlighted to me another challenge again with the persons running. There are persons who are in their own respective companies, employment, and they want to run, but they have a big decision to make. If I run, I lose my job.
Yeah.
And, I just think
there's that.
And I'm sure that there are some circumstances where this happens, but for what it's worth, I think you want to encourage companies that where it is possible to let an employee go, if you like, for 2 months to go out there and campaign. I mean, what could be more important, more honorable than getting up and trying to run for your country to see if you can serve it, right? Which includes the company you're working for.
Indeed.
So to be able to let them go for 2 months and hopefully bring them back if they're not successful, that would be greatly welcome. And, obviously if the person loses, then,
I'm glad you used the word
or wins, you have
honorable,
to find someone. Yeah.
because I also want to pick up the issue of employment, particularly for those politicians who may, again, there can only be one winner. In this case, there can only be 19 winners.
Right.
But we have over 50 candidates, so there can be a lot of losers.
31 so far.
But I want to state there's this notion. I mean, it exists. I want to call it a myth, but it's not a myth. It's real. This whole notion that you and I are both former MPs, politicians, but the day we got unelected or didn't get reelected, and of course tried to re-enter the workforce, we quickly discovered that we are now viewed as a PEP, politically exposed person.
Right.
And companies seem to use this as a crutch and or an excuse to suggest that because you either were previously in politics or you were involved in politics, that somehow by hiring that person, and if that person becomes disgruntled in the working environment, they would somehow use their political influence to harm the company that would otherwise hire them. And I'm left scratching my head when I think about it because, again, members take that honorable oath before the governor when they are sworn in after they've been elected, and that oath is to defend and protect and work in the best interest of the people of the Cayman Islands, and that's all of them, not just the people that, voted for us, not just Caymanians, but everyone in this country. So if you're good enough to get elected, if you're good enough to run a country, and again, this applies to both government and opposition because it takes both sides to run a country. But if you're good enough to do all of those things, but somehow or the other, you don't keep your job because it doesn't matter what you do. It's really up to the voters to decide whether you keep it or not.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of good quality politicians, fall by the wayside for no reason at all other than the fact that they just weren't popular with the voters. But to make challenge,
You probably didn't drink enough, Austin.
Well,
this is a very key ingredient.
No,
let's just spell it out. Right?
It is a key ingredient. Politicians, in large part,
smoke, drink, spend a lot of time at the bars.
If you don't spend enough time at a bar, you don't, socialize in those settings. Then, of course, these are reasons why you lose. But I want to keep it with employment. Somehow or the other, politicians can be considered honorable men and women, trustworthy men and women, when they are running or representing the country at an official level. But somehow or the other, their character falls by significant notches the minute they get unelected, and therefore employers will have you believe that, well, we can't hire you because there's the risk that you will, scuttle the boat, be down in the engine room throwing a monkey wrench into the engine or drilling holes in the boat. Because, well, if you get mad at us, you can always, apply political pressure. And I just think that's complete and utter absolute nonsense.
Yeah, well, kind of when Yeah, well, I never really heard that one, to be quite honest with you. I kind of got more of the impression, and I'm definitely not suggesting what you're saying is wrong, but I guess I heard it from a different angle. I think many employers probably are concerned with, if you were in office, because let me tell you something about politics, ladies and gentlemen, for those who may not know, especially those who are running. If you lose, there are some challenges, because not to say that some of these persons are not honorable or dishonorable, but many of them will victimize you. They will do their best to make sure you don't get a job, right? Because you will not be competing against me in the next round. Right. So there's all that kind of victimization that goes on, and I think that is, to me, one of the concerns a lot of companies have also. Yeah. Is that, I don't want the lightning to strike, and I'm standing next to this guy. Yeah. And it's a really big concern. But again, that is something I think you need to be able to put some things in place where you have elected officials now who have the power that do those sort of things. And it's very easy to be done, you see. Yeah. And I can speak specifically to it, but I won't. But I can tell you that you have things like this. It'll be something simple as this. Ellio's now minister of the rah portfolio. So I'm a big shot now. Because you got to remember, I could have been a drunk before I got elected, but the moment I'm elected, I'm just very important. I don't know why and how that happens, but it's amazing.
Don't forget corrupt too, though.
Yeah, you could be anything. Once you cross the river, you're special. Right. So anyway, I can now sit around and I could go to your company and, of course, a lot of these companies, most companies are probably getting, permits from the government. You're getting your license from the government. And you could bring up a specific name, and I just kind of roll my eyes or, give one of those silent moments. Enough to just cause other persons to infer that this individual is not necessarily in my favor. Mm-hmm. And all of these things have negative implications on that particular person and, of course, on the wider society as a whole. Yeah. So I wish to just assure persons who are running, these are the challenges for those who are running and lose, or that includes those persons who are incumbents. Prepare.
Prepare yourself. Indeed, prepare yourself.
Be prepared.
Be prepared, indeed. These concerns are real, and again, I'll admit I didn't perhaps take them as seriously as I should have, but it is what it is. 5 minutes, give or take 6 minutes before we have to pause and go off to the news. I see also just popped up on social media that the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service has welcomed some 14 new officers to operational duty following their graduation on Thursday, February 20th. So I think that's a bit of good news. Further strengthening our law and order here in the Cayman Islands. But again, hopefully some of them will find their way in traffic, and then some of them might find themselves in vehicles parked on the side of the road. I don't know, on weekends, late hour nights, after the bars and the nightclubs close down. Don't know. To maybe prevent some accidents before they happen versus showing up after the fact.
So let me get that. Let me give clarity to what you're saying. You're saying that they will be in the traffic.
No, I'm saying
the traffic being a deterrent, not in the traffic department.
No, I want them in the traffic department.
Oh, really?
I'm hoping,
well, this is something you're going to have to explain.
In the traffic department.
I kind of thought they had too much people in traffic. Well, this is one of the only things I see that's being done, apparently, is, if you drive without your license, you'll get pulled over quick o'clock. Yeah. But, hey, call for litter or someone's been murdered. There's a guy laying on the street here. Yeah. Like, I get knocked down on 2nd of June, 2017 at 4:30 in the morning, right? Yeah. I think I know who did it. Yeah. I hope he's listening. But anyway, it's like, I'm trying to
you don't carry a grudge.
Not at all. Not at all. The thing is, when you commit these sort of sins, you see, you have to carry it, not me. Yeah. But the bottom line of it is that, honestly, it can be very difficult to get a police officer sometimes. So, please explain yourself.
I was just referring back to a conversation we had. I don't know if it was this week. It was probably last week, maybe last week Friday in our Open Mic Friday discussion. But we were talking about, again, the number of road fatalities, particularly along Shamrock Street or Shamrock Road, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
Spot Street is what we know it as. But there have been a number of road fatalities, not just there, but anywhere. And they usually are late-night accidents. Usually they involve speed. Usually they involve alcohol because they occur when the clubs close and people are on their way home. And again, we've got a bunch of new roads. And yes, we were all young once, so you want to, test your ride a little bit, And that happens for vehicles as well as particularly we see it happening at a frightening pace for motorcycles. But again, to your point, with the size of the traffic department, which seems to be getting bigger every passing month, and certainly they have the resources and vehicles. I've always maintained, and we still haven't seen it at any large degree. It seems that you see the police at roadblocks, and I think those are important. I don't think roadblocks should come as a surprise. As a matter of fact, you should know if you're going to go out on the weekend, Friday and Saturday night, you're going to go through a roadblock or two. Again, stateside, Florida, particularly, college towns, it happens like clockwork, and people know it's going to happen or not. Right. It doesn't serve as a deterrent for those not drinking, but it certainly makes you think about who's behind the wheel. Right. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to be proactive to ensure that no lives are lost. Likewise, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The value of a police cruiser sitting on the side of the road with their light tips on. Yep. You can see that over a mile away.
Priceless.
So if I'm in my car, automatically I'm going to look down, make sure I'm in the speed limit. I'm going to make sure my seatbelt is securely fastened. And in some cases, I'm going to make sure my hands are in 10 to 2 position.
Can I add one?
Yes.
If there's a light. I'm sorry.
You can't even say it with a straight face, can you?
I can't even say it. I was saying, not only if you were thinking about your seatbelt, but, in case you were thinking of jumping and pulling open someone's car door and sitting on their face.
Yeah, yes, quite right.
You might consider that, too.
Yes, quite right.
Well, sitting on some part of their anatomy.
See, there you go again. See, I just got to blow past that.
Hey, it's Friday.
Blow past
that. Focus.
But again, I'm just calling for proactive policing.
No, absolutely.
That's all it is. Just, be there before the accident.
We've been saying that for years.
After the accident.
We've been saying that for years because I remember saying that when you and I were on Crosstalk 100 years ago.
Yeah. We have less than just a little bit over a minute. There's a caller on the line. I'm going to take the call, but I'm going to ask the caller to say what you got to say in 30 seconds or less. Caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You got 30 seconds.
Ellio, Austin, tell me some more about these people. These people that victimize you after you get involved in politics.
You want to hear some more about that?
Yeah, Ellio, you know who it is, though.
I know who it is.
Tell me some more about that because, it's pretty sad to see, when they're doing so well campaigning and then they go right down the drain and all that kind of stuff. So if we can give them some advice on that and advise the public if we can.
Sure thing.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely do that. Thank you very much for your call. And, your wish is our command. We'll certainly go down that road. It is 4:58. We're going to pause, take a short commercial break, check in with our BBC News and a few brief messages. But the phone lines are open, 745-2626. There'll be more Straight Talk still to come right here on Bobo FM.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here.
More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
The vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
The BBC World Service, the world's radio station.
The BBC World Service makes programs with a uniquely global perspective.
Enlighten us. Where do we start?
The latest world news and current affairs.
The very best in global arts and culture.
What has been happening on the financial markets today.
Social issues, political stories.
Everything was there in a way that I never heard before.
The BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo FM, powered by Doctors Hospital. 24/7 urgent care, located in Georgetown at the top of Walker's Road. Introducing the Doctors Hospital Specialty Clinic, conveniently located in the Strand. To book your appointment at Doctors Hospital, call 325-9000. Across Cayman on 89.1 FM, online and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Robo FM.
I'm Stuart McIntosh with the BBC News. Hello. President Zelensky of Ukraine has left the White House after talks on ending the war with Russia broke down acrimoniously. In dramatic exchanges before the world's media, the American president bluntly told his Ukrainian counterpart that he was gambling with a third world war. A planned news conference was cancelled. Here's our international editor, Jeremy Bowen.
This really is marking the sea change between, first of all, the breakdown between the United States and Ukraine, but also it signals the looming crisis between European members of NATO and the US. The evidence appears strongly to be that President Trump's priority is doing a deal with Russia, with normalizing relations with Russia. And if the price for that deal is putting pressure on Ukraine, making it sign an unpalatable agreement.
News of the clash between President Zelensky, President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance has been met with disbelief around the world. Most European leaders have voiced their support for Ukraine and Mr. Zelensky. Wendy Urquhart reports.
France, Austria, Germany and others have made it clear they stand by Mr. Zelensky. The European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said the free world needs a new leader, and the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen posted a message for the Ukrainian president on X. Be strong, be brave, be fearless. You are never alone, she wrote. There's little doubt that the utter breakdown of US-Ukraine relations is a gift for Russia. The former president, Dmitry Medvedev, who now chairs Russia's Security Council, said Mr. Zelensky got a solid slap.
Lebanon's new prime minister has demanded a full Israeli withdrawal from the south of his country. Israeli troops are continuing to occupy 5 hilltop positions in contravention of a ceasefire that came into force in November. Lipika Pelham reports.
On a visit to villages in southern Lebanon, the Prime Minister Nawaf Salam said his government was gathering regional and international support to force Israeli troops to completely pull out. He promised the residents a safe return to their homes as soon as possible. Israel says it's left soldiers at 5 key posts in southern Lebanon to protect its own northern border because Hezbollah operatives are still active in the area. More than a year of hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah, initiated by the militant group's support of Hamas, ended with the ceasefire that has largely held.
Egyptian sources say the Israeli delegation in Cairo for the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire talks has been trying to extend the first stage by 6 weeks. Their goal is to get more hostages back and release more Palestinian prisoners, but without withdrawing troops from Gaza, as earlier agreed. You're listening to the latest world news from the BBC. US media say President Trump will sign an executive order declaring English the official language of the United States. While English is the most widely spoken language, hundreds of others are used by Americans, with millions speaking Spanish at home. Mr. Trump criticized this linguistic diversity during his election campaign. If signed, it'll be the first time the US has officially adopted a national language at the federal level. Bosnia's international high representative has accused Bosnian Serb leaders of trying to destabilize the country. It follows the passage of legislation banning the work of state-level courts and judicial officials in the Republika Srpska region. Here's our Balkans correspondent, Guy Delorme.
International High Representative Christian Schmidt is flexing his authority following the latest challenge by Bosnian Serb leader Milorad Dodik. Mr. Schmidt accused the Republika Srpska authorities of destabilizing state institutions by banning the work of the state-level judiciary in the region. He stopped short of reversing the measures, but he warned that legal remedies would be taken to uphold the constitutional order. Mr. Dodik received a 1-year prison sentence and 6-year ban from elected office on Wednesday after a national court found him guilty of ignoring the High Representative's rulings. He's labelled the verdict nonsense.
The head of the Africa Centre for Disease Control has condemned recent cuts by Western countries to their aid budgets. Dr. Jean Kaseya told the BBC that future pandemics would now be harder to contain, particularly if they began in Africa. Dr. Kaseya urged governments across the continent to find new funding models and to direct more resources to their healthcare systems. Microsoft's announced it's shutting down the video call pioneer Skype nearly 22 years after its creation. The service will stop working in May, with users able to transfer their accounts to Microsoft Teams platform. BBC News.
The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo FM.
And welcome back, K-Man. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon, and welcome back to Straight Talk on Bobo FM.
The phone lines are open at 745-2626, or if talking isn't your thing, you can send us a WhatsApp message by dialing 928-2562. Again, to the members of the listening audience, we are unable to provide and access WhatsApp audio notes at the moment due to a technical issue. We're hoping that issue will resolve itself before the end of the show. But at the moment, only WhatsApp messages, i.e. text messages, can be received, or you can call us. We are broadcasting live over Bobo FM on the radio dial, but also simulcasting live both on YouTube and Instagram via the Rec Room 345 if you want to connect with us there. Just to pick up where we left off, Ellio, the last caller wanted us to certainly, expand further on the pitfalls and challenges that persons, particularly those who might put themselves forward for elections, whether they win or lose, what they might face or challenges they might face. I mean, really, unless you can, suggest me in a different direction or another direction, really it's the employment factor, the re-employment, particularly for those persons who have served, gotten elected, but for whatever reason didn't get reelected. Now they have to, fit in civilian life, so to speak. And they oftentimes face many, many hurdles, particularly, if you want to get back into mainstream employment. That's why so many politicians usually have, individual businesses or otherwise that they, that they hang on to as a means of, earning a living, so to speak. But certainly for those persons who are elected, do serve, it is very challenging to find reemployment. But also for those candidates who are running, there are many candidates who are forced, or if not required, to quit their job in order to campaign for election. I can think of at least one candidate right now that I know and I've been speaking to. Interestingly enough, and again, this is the I won't call it victimization, but there's a word that I can't, the hypocrisy of the whole thing. This gentleman is employed by a company who supports a certain grouping. Mm-hmm. And had that gentleman decided to run for election with that grouping,
would have been fine.
His job would have been safe. Mm-hmm. But because he obviously chose another route, then that employer forced that candidate, that individual, to resign. And there is a question as to whether or not that job is going to be waiting for him when he comes back, but probably not. Right. And again, I just have to ask the question, why is that? What is so wrong with the person aspiring, and more to the point, putting themselves forward for national election? This is someone who embraces everything came out and wants to be a part of a solution. I don't see this as a bad thing. But again, in the employment world, this whole politically exposed person seems to have real, if not sinister and terrible consequences for employers if they do. And I just don't get it.
Well, absolutely, Austin. I agree with just about every single thing that you've said, and picking up on where that caller is left us. Let me say a couple of things and remind you. I mentioned to you a few days ago, and that is that one of the most honorable things I think you can do is to get up and say, I want to run for office. And because that individual, most likely, I would hope, has the country's best interests at heart. And I'm speaking now to every single person listening out there, who, especially those who are voters. You got to understand that, I mean, it's almost akin, like you watch American television, it's a bit like the guy who goes off to fight in the army. You know, if anything, you should be looking at that person with a level of respect and not necessarily with contempt.
Yes.
And I want to put you in a frame of mind as to why it is so important. I talked the other day about the whole issue of science and looking out for any little thing that's going to prevent that person from reaching your eyeballs and from reaching your eardrums. Anything that's doing that, chances are you should be very much aware of that. Why? Let's picture, maybe it's hard to picture Cayman Islands as a company. So let's just give you a company, you know, a nice successful company. Give me one, Austin. Give me a nice successful company.
A nice successful company.
A nice successful company. So let's just picture you own one of these nice fast food restaurants. Let's just make it that one.
Yes.
You own one of these nice fast food restaurants. The thing's making you $30,000 a day. You're making real money, right? Well, just imagine if you had someone that was trying to hide and cover up someone that was stealing your money. Well, surely you shouldn't admire that person because he's covering up the fact that someone's stealing some of your money. You should be making 35 and not 30, right? Okay, so that's a bad person. You would see this as an issue. So I say all of that to put you in the frame of mind to understand that the Cayman Islands is a company. And the persons who are running is running to serve as your board of directors.
Yes.
That board of directors will, on your behalf, make every single decision for that company called the Cayman Islands. And you're trusting them.
Yeah.
So if there's a wonderful talent out there, there's a lovely young lady, she's like a genius. She's got wonderful ideas. She's honest, she's got the tenacity. She's got the stick-to-it, all these good things that she has. You should not look favorably at someone who is trying to stop her from getting your ear. Because that person is one of the best persons for your company. And it can be done wittingly or unwittingly. It can be done knowingly or unknowingly. Like I talked about the road signs and the changes to the legislation by the NRA / the planning department. That might be completely unknowingly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that it could potentially stop someone from getting your ear. And so that hurts you. And so as we talk about this and how these things impact the board of directors as well as the ones who are trying to become board of directors as well as the one who lost the seat, let me just run through something very quickly. Corrupt politician is a political figure who abuses their power for personal gain, violating ethical standards, laws, or the public trust. Corruption in politics can take many forms. It mentioned things like bribery, accepting money, gifts, favors, exchange for political influence, embezzlement, misusing public funds for personal benefit, cronyism, nepotism, favoring friends, family, or political allies for positions or contracts instead of merit, fraud and election rigging, manipulating election processes to stay in power, abuse of power, using authority, silence opposition, control institutions, or bypass the law, conflicts of interest, making decisions that benefit personal businesses or investment instead of the public good, selling influence, secretly working for special interest groups or foreign entities rather than representing constituencies. So let me talk about what and by the way, I'm telling you what I know. I'm not going to call names, not that I couldn't.
Sure.
Not that I probably wouldn't love to, but I'm going to do for what I believe right now is the decent thing.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to know that I'm not theorizing when I tell you this.
And thank you for doing so and proving my point that you're not out to quote unquote wreck the engine or scuttle the vessel, though you could very easily do so. It is not what you're going to do.
I want you to know I could do so because there is absolutely no way if I call these names that these persons would ever dare take Ellio A. Solomon to court. They could not.
Okay.
It would kill them. It would make them worse. Okay.
Okay.
All right. But I'm not going to call the names because that's not what I'm here for. What I'm here for is to help educate, enlighten, and to elevate you as to exactly what's going on in your company.
Yes.
Okay. So here is a person who ran for office. And by the way, that individual that called ran for office many years ago as well. Another great inspiration. But you run for office, there's a candidate now that's running, and he's running against a particular individual in a specific constituency to try to be your board member.
Right.
He loses or she loses for whatever reason. Now let me tell you what the natural instinct is of people. who are in this particular race, because it all comes down to the numbers. And I want to separate natural from right. The natural reaction would be to say, is there any way for me to get rid of this guy? Because if he's not in the race, I can win this thing. That is the natural thing, but it's not necessarily the right thing. Really what you're supposed to be doing is competing. It's like let's make it a physical race. You should be winning the race because you ran faster, not because you held the person back by the shirt.
Right.
But what you're going to find is arguably a very high percentage of people don't run faster. They do their best to hold you back by the shirt, right? And they do that in every single way that they can, whether it's going to be trying to besmirch, or black guy, whatever term you want to use, the family.
Yeah.
They're setting people up inside the neighborhood to spread all kind of rumors and lies.
Defame your name and reputation.
Yeah, I mean, I even heard where they're spreading double rumors. It's like on one hand you're working with this one, and on the other hand you're working against them. It just depends on who they're talking to.
Sure.
So you have all of these things, but understand why it's not good. It's not good because they're preventing you from being able to get possibly a very good board member.
Right.
So Austin talked about a very good issue, and we both chatted about it before the break, the whole issue of employment. Clearly, if I can cut off your resources to get funding, to get money, well, I'm not only hurting you personally and arguably your family as well, but I'm also stopping you potentially from being able to run against me in the next election. And let's just pretend it was a person working on the radio. Well, I'll tell you what some of these people have done, not calling any names.
Right.
They'll walk in and say, oh, here you got that boy to working for you up now at that radio station. I hope I don't think I get an advertisement from government as long as I got him there.
Yeah.
Well, if you're a business person, you might sit and say, well, I don't know. I really need to get advertisement. I mean, government's a big one.
Sure it is. Largest employer in the island.
Largest employer in the island. And, boy, you heard what he said. And this not no pian. This is like a big minister here, Okay, so, well, chances are, just a hint, chances are that might impact your, I don't know why.
Call it names.
I don't know why you're laughing so much.
Just
all I'm simply saying is, chances are it might impact your work. Okay, right. just a slight chance. And then you have all kinds of things that they're actually doing. I mean, it's amazing, both in terms of when you're running, the sort of underhandedness that goes on.
Yes.
While you're in there, because you got to understand the other thing is now. I think you had a person call the other day. Well, you didn't get elected. You didn't get reelected. Well, let me get the next one on that.
So what do you got to offer?
Yeah, let me get the next one on that. And this is probably an example that certain people mightn't like. But you have ever seen, I'm going to definitely stir it up between male and females driving in their cars. But you ever observed some women, they're sitting around and, a nice, beautiful lady walks in. The nice, beautiful lady is walking in, she's got the perfect curves in her hair and everything's perfect. Perfect. Her man is...
I love how you become Donald Trump.
Yeah. I know why
what some might call inappropriate language.
It's not necessarily Donald Trump, but yeah, I'll go for that. I'm a Trumper.
Sound like him.
I'm a Trumper. The bottom line of it is that she walks in and she's not even looking at this woman's man.
Right.
She's going straight to the counter. But really what a lot of women are thinking is, get that woman out of here. I want to use the B word, but, it's not radio friendly. Get her out of here. And they want her out of there because I just don't want her there. I feel she looks better than me with it. And it's the same crap going on in politics, right? And I want you to understand, little men always fight against giants. This is just a simple fact, You can say that, and you see, if you drill them, you can get the real answers, right? If you were ever brave enough to drill them, but we admire so much our politicians, we don't.
Right.
But if you just really ask them, so I really want to know what your problem is with Mr. X.
Right.
And really keep drilling them, you'll come to find out that they don't really have an issue.
No, it's all
and then if they do tell you a lie, then you ask them to prove it. Then again, you would prove that they're lying. But there's all of these things that are going on, and this is why I say you have to remain vigilant when you're talking about your elected officials. You have to be saying, I don't want anything that's going to stop me from seeing the person sign. I don't want anything that's going to stop me from being able to hear the person give their speech. And again, this is why I talked about trying to create a level playing field, even trying as much as possible to take money out of the campaign, to make it that you can engage in public debates like the Chamber of Commerce has. That's a level thing. No one's paying for it. And you as an elector is sitting there listening to these debates and making your decisions based on that.
Yeah.
Because I wish to assure you, it is not a fair process with what's happening right now, right? Money plays a big part up inside of this. And so you have a candidate right now, like I say, he or she may possess all the relevant characteristics and skills and knowledge, but will never make it in. Will never make it in. Simply because somebody might have enough money to buy up all the ads. I mean, if I have enough money, I could come and just pretty much book this entire radio station full of ads.
Yeah.
It just is. There's no more room in the inn.
That's right.
Right? You'll be having him in a stable, because at the end of the day, it's all bought out. This is the sort of influence that money has, and people are spreading lies. They're spreading propaganda. But what I'm going to tell you is, you can't have a corrupt politician, and nobody wants to hear this, but I can say this, you see, because I'm not running for office.
Right.
You can't have a corrupt politician unless you've got corrupt people in the public. And that's just a reality.
True.
Because chances are, for example, for a person to be able to get some money in their pocket, they've got to spend it. And they need somebody out there to help them. This is where your PEP thing comes in, politically exposed persons. Because the politically exposed persons are not only the persons who ran for office or who were elected, but also their close friends and family becomes politically exposed persons.
True.
Because chances are those are the
Guilty
persons.
by association.
Well, it's about the fact that chances are those are the persons he or she would employ in order to be able to get some of that money back in their pocket, as well as to be able to have additional influence out there in areas where they should not.
Right.
Right? And so I'm saying all that in summary to say I want to take my hat off to anyone who has the good intentions of doing good for the country who wants to run.
Sure.
All right? May God strive with us, with those who fight for us, and fight against those who fight against us. The persons who do not mean well, curse be to them.
Yeah.
But the persons who are stepping up to legitimately become a member of the board of the Cayman Islands to run this company properly, God bless them all. And we need to give them every fair chance to go out and listen and stop the nonsense. Well, boy, I'm just telling you plain straight. I vote. This is how I vote. Wherever they put on the ticket, how I vote.
Yes. Right.
Or, I can hear the next one. I'll tell you, I see him there, but he did nothing for me. This one, he bought me bears. And I've had people come to me, and let's just show you how sad it is. You know why you lost the election, You had me get out more out in them bars,
Stick a pin. We have a caller on the line. Let's hear what
Stay
you have
from
to
the
say.
bar room.
Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, fine gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for your call.
Yes, boy, you guys are preaching today. You guys were there. You both run. You got elected, and you ran and didn't get elected. I ran. I didn't get elected. So yeah, we know exactly what you're saying. We're preaching is required. The three of us.
Bob Marley said it best. He who feels it knows it.
Exactly. I want to talk about the subject you're talking about this evening, but I also want to send out a warning and a cautionary note to all the listeners and Caymanian people and those residents here about the Auditor General's report that was released last couple of days about the government finances and the debt and all of that. I think everybody should read that. I'm hoping that some of the politicians, some of the candidates who are nominated on Monday, in particular, and those that have financial and accounting and international experience in finance will speak about this, because hopefully they'll come on your show and talk about it.
Yes.
But I'll leave that there. I just want to continue some of the thoughts that you guys are having this evening and add to it, although you're doing a fabulous job. But victimization of candidates and those that are candidates, when they're candidates or when they are unsuccessful at the polls, and also the character assassination of candidates as well that take place in our islands. I mean, this is supposed to be a Christian nation, but boy, the stuff that goes on during election is really, it just makes your skin crawl. The kind of stuff that you hear. Just all what you were saying is correct. I mean, there's people that call you that want you to pay their entire hospital bill, or they want you to do this. And if you don't do it, then they say, well, I'll go to the next guy, he'll do it. And, it's just, what are you trying to to elect somebody that's going to be a godfather, going to be a sugar daddy for all your needs, or you want to elect somebody who is competent to deal with the country's business to make life better for you as a result of that. I mean, our people seem to don't understand what it is to elect people, you know, and what is their purpose. Yeah. And so it seems to me, gentlemen, that you know, in Cayman, people who are either retired and have a big pension, or they're independently wealthy, or who are funded by some sort of a nonprofit organization or some political action committee, or some people who want to own them and they fund them, that get elected or decide that they want to run and don't have any risk to worry about working afterwards when they don't get elected, or getting business if they have a business. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know it, you know, and the excuses that employers give to candidates who are unsuccessful at the polls, but why they can't hire them, right? And you know it's a different reason, but they don't want to tell you that. Yeah. But they tell you something, well, you know, that sounds good, but you know that they feel that the person that you ran against who may have defeated you is not going to be happy if they hire you. Correct. Or if you have a business and they're not be happy that you are that person, they're a client of you if your political enemy who is in parliament is not pleased by that. So it really is terrible what goes on, you know, and that's why good people are staying away from taking the risk of going out. Good, decent people. I mean, there's some good ones that are out. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you guys are two of those, and there's some others here. But there's a lot of other ones who would do it, but they don't want to risk their lives and their reputation and their career potential being destroyed. Yeah. It reminds me of the story or the example that it reminds me of is a rooster fight. Mm-hmm. You know, you have roosters that you train, and some countries use rooster fighting as a game. Some of it is terrible, but you know, you have roosters and you prepare them for the fight, right? And you make sure that they're well fed and they're prepared to fight, right? Mm-hmm. But you also feed them and take care of them and shelter them, and so when the time comes to fight, they're ready. Mm-hmm. You don't leave them out in the cold, let them scratch dirt, and when the time comes to the fight, then you say, okay, go and fight. No. Right. So, you know, that's why as a politician, if you want people to be good leaders and servants of the people, when they're not elected or when they come out to campaign, you have to also give them some respect. And it is a difficult job. Yeah. And when you have, on top of that, I mean, when you have the social media that is starting all kinds of rumors, and you have some of the destructive talk shows, such as, I'm not calling names, but and the rumors that go around during election time, or as soon as somebody gets elected, within a month of being elected, all of a sudden you hear all kind of rumors flying about the person, and the stuff like that. So some of that is just destructive. And what you guys are saying is really, really true. And I hope that the voters of this country are listening this afternoon, and those people who are preparing to be nominated on Monday will realize that they're going into some serious territory. But we have to change this.
Shark-infested waters.
Shark-infested waters. But we have to change this if we're going to grow and build a nation, because, you know, we have to get good people to step out, and we got to insulate them from this kind of victimization. And there's some organizations that, in some countries, for example, in Bermuda, they give people the ability to run, and if they get elected, they can still keep their job if they're not ministers, and they can work in those businesses if they have the time, and also be a MP, or you know, they're not blacklisted if they don't get elected. But in our country, we have some maturity to do, and I'm glad that you all are fleshing out this. It's a very uncomfortable topic, but it's a very important one. So, guys, thanks very much for your insights.
You're more than welcome. Before you go, Mario, I just want to say I will be reaching out to you over the weekend, hopefully with the goal of getting you on the program as early as next week to talk about some of the things, not least of which the Human Resource Conference that you recently attended, and some of your thoughts and strategies in terms of the way forward when we're talking about building a workforce and, of course, creating greater opportunities for Caymanians specifically. So I will be reaching out over the weekend, and hopefully you'll have some time in your schedule next week to join us.
I'll be happy to. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that.
Appreciate your time. You know, I want to pick up on one thing that the caller touched on, which we haven't touched on. You said, and you were absolutely right, it takes two to tango in the whole corruption notion. And people, voters and members of the public, throw around the word of corruption, largely related to politicians, whether you win or you lose, but largely to those persons who get in. But you need a second party for that corruption to actually take shape. And I wonder whether people, voters in particular, believe the buying of votes is a corrupt practice or not. And Mr. Mario touched on it. Because there is a reality that has reared its ugly little head, I would dare say, in the last 10 years. And to your point on some of the unintended, though negative consequences related to single-member constituencies, this is one of them that stands out the most. Because there are persons, and I believe it was former MP Winston Connolly, and I'll call his name because he went public with this statement when he was in office last time, in terms of the handout mentality that has grown and started to take root and dare say blossom in the Cayman Islands. And I say this has happened in the last 10 years because I've been voting since I've been 18. And certainly in my lifespan, I remember voting for the bigger picture issues. It's not what you can do for me, it's what you can do for us, or what you can do to improve my life, my son's life, future generations, but all big picture items. So, you're looking to, improve traffic. You're not improving traffic just for me. You're improving traffic for everybody like me who lives, again, east of Tropical Gardens. Or if you want to, improve employment opportunities, you're not just hiring me, but you're creating opportunities for others like me and my children and otherwise to get hired. That's the big picture. But we have voters in this country today that will ask you for anything from gas money to mortgage money, and even some additional big-ticket items on top of that. And to Mr. Mario's point, if you do not pay those bills, then they simply, for no other reason at all, will go to the next guy, the next candidate, and further down the line they go. But I just say to the voter or the citizen who very easily throws out the words, our politicians are all corrupt, to look in the mirror. Do you believe when you ask for that tank of gas or that mortgage relief or that rental relief or whatever the case may be, is that act corrupt or is that par for the course in your mind?
Yeah, well, there's all that corruption, and not only do they go to the other candidate, they also spread ill about you as well. Yes. Mark Twain had a saying that the world is shaped by the unreasonable man. And let me give you a very simplified example of that, and I recognize this from time you and I worked in Crosstalk on the radio. Let's say a person, not me or you, of course, couldn't possibly mean you.
Never.
But let's say a person is sitting on the radio and they make a very good point. They say that the stars are far away from the planet Earth. Who could disagree with that one?
Right.
Well, I'm going to tell you how human beings are, and it is natural, but again, not right. That person was being begged for money by 15 people. Let's throw out a number.
Yeah.
So the guy says, Austin Harris, I'm telling you that the stars are far away from the planet Earth. You could almost hear the silent crowd applauding. Now, one person that didn't get $10 picks up the phone. Yeah, I hear you. They're talking about them stars. Well, how far it is from the planet Earth. You're talking a lot of nonsense. You're not doing nothing for the people. And now, you heard that? You heard that one caller? Okay, now the persons who were applauding you about giving the obvious answer that the stars are far away from the planet, they start stepping away from the radio. And one more person who begged you for $10 calls in. Yeah, I want to agree with that caller there. You're talking all the nonsense up inside about stars. You got to try to do something. Whatever it is, you get the point. They keep drifting and drifting. Before you know it, at the end of the day, rather than the persons being able to stick to their guns to say, I think what the person said made perfect sense to me. They're being influenced by peripheral information. They're being influenced by nonsense, spoken by nonsensical people.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, all of that nonsense has real, sincere impacts. In this particular case, in a person getting elected or staying elected. And so it is incumbent on all of us to have good critical thinking and really need to ask ourselves, what is it that we want in Parliament? I remember one time there was a young lady, again, won't call her name, where there was a debate taking place with candidates. I think it was, what's the theater called?
Hartwell.
Hartwell Theater. And this particular lady made a comment, and the comment was about, you know, their candidates coming around and wanting to hear from their elected officials. And I asked the question, what do you really, what are you looking for that you need to hear from your elected official? Because you see, if you hear that, it sounds good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear from him. Just like people saying, you know, you got to get out and drink more. You got to get, but hold on a second. Let's just get back to the company example. You know, you own one of these fast food restaurants. You're not going to applaud your employee. Boy, you know, I know you're supposed to be frying up that chicken, right? But I really appreciate you going out them bars and drinking with people, you know. You know? But you gotta get to know them people, get out and drink. No, you'd say you're fired because you ain't doing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And this is the guy that's supposed to be flipping chicken.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, but of course, that's about flipping chicken. That's a very serious job. The not so serious job is the one that's running country, making all the rules, including whether you can flip chicken or not. We want him going out drinking.
Yeah.
We want him going out smoking and doing everything that he can rather than doing what he's paid to do. You know, we really as the electorate need to kind of get a little, and of course, I'm sure I'm speaking to a minority somewhere.
I'm hoping.
But let me just say to you, I've had people saying, Ellio, we need some blocks. You see, if I can't get them blocks, I'm not getting my vote, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is my problem. It's becoming more and more commonplace. When there was a time, it would not have
then you're not
been raised.
And again, as I say, hand on Bible, swear to God on the life of my kids and my grandkids, I'm telling you the truth. Then you knock on one door. Why not? I'm not even talking to him. You know why? Because Mr. So-and-so, he fixed my roof about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He the only one I was voting for.
Yep.
So then you got next one. My family member needs a knee operation. And I'm saying to myself, hold on a second here, man. Are we really taking the situation serious?
Yeah.
But let me tell you what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just say this before we have to go to some kind of break. I know I can see in Austin eyes we can soon have to take a break.
No, you got at least 20 minutes.
Okay, because you were looking at me funny, you know.
I just wanted
Austin, I'm just teasing you.
I just wanted to say to you that, you know, you're absolutely right. But if a politician were to be known public that he had fixed that roof or paid that mortgage, or paid that rent, he was corrupt because he was vote buying. But the person receiving that gift, who is doing it, who lives in the same constituency now, in single-member constituencies of that person, but they're innocent.
But you see, again, all of this leads you to say, don't just focus about the politician, because as I've said, you cannot have a corrupt politician unless you have corrupt people in the public.
That's a very valuable point.
Can't happen. So when we talk about all these corrupt politicians, just remember, they can't do it without somebody helping them, right?
Sure.
Corrupt people around.
Yeah.
But let me just tell you what's going to happen, because I want you to see this again from a small company. If you ever open a little restaurant or whatever your company is, and let's just pretend that you put somebody to run that company, and if you allow him or her to run that company in such a way that says, if you don't drink with the boss on Friday evenings, you're not getting no promotions. You ain't keeping no job. Or if you don't sleep with the boss, you're not keeping that job. Or if you don't wash his car, you're not keeping that job. Let me just tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If you own a business like that and you allow it to operate like that, I can guarantee you 1,000%. You will not be in business very long.
True.
And it is nothing different with this company called Cayman Islands Limited. If you're going to keep allowing politicians to get in there, that at the end of the day, it's the knee operations, it's the blocks, it's the roof, you got to sleep with them, you got to do this, you got to do... If you keep that up, I can guarantee you, Cayman Islands are no different, you know. It might have a little greater degree of durability, right? So many instruments involved, but it's no different. This country,
and it's not going to get any better.
It's going to collapse. And here's what you will continue to get. You will continue to get, and I remember thinking about this very seriously. Look, I actually had a very senior politician call me. Again, not calling no names. But you're going to continue to get the drag. You're going to keep getting worse and worse, as I think Mario was indicating. you're not going to get a lot of good, decent people that want to keep coming forward. Because fundamental to politics is a simple question. Do I want to do whatever it takes to stay elected, or do I want to do what is right? And those two things seldom converge.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what you are seeing nowadays is that a significantly large amount of candidates are only really concerned at the end of the day about getting elected and staying elected.
Right.
And if you're going to have it that everybody at the end of the day can be bought, I can buy your vote, I can buy the candidates, I can buy the parliament. Remember, just keep your stupid mouth shut for 4 years, because your vote is not important. It has been bought and it has been paid for. I'll see you in the next 4 years.
Yes.
You can't ask a man for some blocks to give him your vote, and then you have a nerves to come and check him during the 4 years for something else. No, I already bought that vote.
That's right.
I'll see you in 4 years.
That's quite right.
All right? I'd like to believe that the majority of good citizens in this country, and let me just make sure we understand that this Cayman Islands Inc. impacts every one of us. I don't care if you got 100 million in the bank or you ain't got a dollar. When this company fails, we all fail. And at the end of the day, I'd like to believe that the good people of this country wants to do well, and I'm hoping that what I'm saying will aid them in doing well. Don't make nobody come up with no excuses why you can't see Mary Jean sign and Bob sign. I don't care if they got to put it on top of a building. You want to see who running. You need to take the time out to go to the meetings and listen and hear what they have to say. Not just saying you're voting for this one because he with a family, he with a friend, this one fixed the roof, and I never forget he came to my daughter's funeral and he even cried, you know. Listen, all that is nonsense.
Yeah.
You are trying to select someone with the right skills, the right knowledge, the right expertise, the right characteristics to make sure that they can run your country. So I'm begging you to please go out and try to do that. This is another election.
If you know better, do better.
Yeah, all of that.
Quite right. It is, 5:43 in the studio, and the phone lines are open at 745-2626. I feel I should say this because we have a number of persons calling via WhatsApp, and we've never been able to accept WhatsApp calls for the last 15 episodes that we've been on the air, and that's not changing anytime soon. Unfortunately, we're still having challenges receiving WhatsApp voice notes. So the only avenue available vis-a-vis WhatsApp is if you send us the traditional.
Well, Austin, all I can say,
message.
If we are managing to survive with all these technical difficulties, we must be doing pretty well.
We must be.
It's definitely not the technology that's helping us.
No, not at all. That's all right. We gotta get past it all.
We'll get there
as well. Switching gears a little bit. I was teasing my colleague that I kind of been kind of hard on him this week. I haven't really had a chance to allow him to stretch his legs a little bit on the topic that is very clearly his favorite topic. And maybe with the discussion of this one, we'll head down that road. But it's just me being fair and balanced because, well, he's my partner. We're in this thing together.
Listen to me now. I know what you're trying to do.
What am I trying to do? But think of you.
No.
Consider it.
Let me just tell all of them again now. For the last 3 weeks, if I try to say something about cruise tourism, he didn't want to hear diddly from me about cruise tourism. And because something itching him now today, he won't hear about cruise tourism.
Well, something itching me today that I know could very easily head us down that road. And all I'm saying is that's all right, because we haven't talked about it for a little while. That's all. So in the news, everybody may know about the Grand Hyatt Regency Resort.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one being built next to the wharf there on Pageant Beach. Well, a new water sports dock planned for the Grand Hyatt Hotel has failed to get the green light from the Department of Environment due to their concerns over its impact of marine life. According to an article that appeared in today's Compass, it says, a coastal works application for the 118-foot dock, which was intended for the use of dive boats, catamarans, and tour operators, was submitted by the developers of the 10-story hotel scheduled for completion later this year. The dock was intended to be used by guests at the Grand Hyatt and the general public, the application said, with the largest proposed boat being able to berth at the dock being a 60-foot catamaran operated by Red Sail Sports. The submitted plan showed a proposed dock that will be constructed from a 10-foot wide, 8-inch thick reinforced concrete deck slab supported by 80 12-inch diameter steel pipe piles with a 0.5-inch wall thickness that would be driven into the seabed using a vibratory hammer. The piles would be filled with concrete and then connected together with reinforced concrete beams. Well, in the submission of the Coastal Works Review, the Department of Environment recommended that that application in its current form be refused. Now, again, to be fair to the DOE did state in that article unequivocally that they're not opposed to docks. It's just the current construction methodology. So they instructed and recommended that the developer go back to the drawing board and come back and bring a revised plan. But of the concerns raised by the DOE, they include the construction methodology of using reinforced concrete and steel piles that would have impact on the marine and coral life, specifically the vibrations used to drive those piles into the ground would have damaging effects on coral, as well as the reinforced concrete deck underneath that pier or berth would block out the sunlight and therefore smother corals that need sunlight to thrive. They also suggested that the proposed lighting on the dock and the surrounding facilities would impair turtle nesting sites, and therefore that needed to be remedied. They suggested that also as part of the construction methodology, certain chemical toxins used in the building process would be damaging to marine life. And last but certainly not least, it said the impact of building that dock would also impact negatively snorkelers visiting nearby shipwrecks. Apparently they've named one called the Gamma, which is 70 feet offshore of that site. And therefore, by building that dock, snorkelers wouldn't have that opportunity. Again, snorkeling in Pageant Beach, Hogstye Bay area, you do so at your own risk because it is one where it sees heavy boat traffic. But these are the reasons outlined. And again, these objections may seem familiar or certainly would be familiar when you consider
just say what
some
you
of
want
the
to say,
other
Austin.
wider discussions taking place in Hogstye Bay, particular to the berthing facilities that are proposed in Hogstye Bay.
You get me on my little bandwagon here. Let me just say something.
See, I said, all I got to do is say the word berth. And
No,
boom,
yeah,
there we go.
no.
But that's okay, though.
No, but
it's okay.
but just so you know, it's not just
teasing you.
it's not just birthing. You know, I want you all to know, right? Everybody listening, I said it already. I'm not gonna deny any of my experiences or circumstances, stories, whatever it is. They're gonna put me in the grave one day, but when they bury me, right? You're gonna know you're burying Ellio.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What I want people to understand is that
there'll be a sigh of relief going across the island.
Yeah,
there will be a genuine tear.
Yeah.
There'll be a genuine tear in my eye.
But you don't have to wonder who you buried. Okay?
That's right.
So let me just tell you all something while I have the chance. Because tomorrow I could be off the radio again, you know. Anything happening came on. You know.
Well, it'd take you to take me because, you know.
Well, I mean, that's just two of us going together, but it still don't mean nothing. But while I have the chance to say it, let me just say this again. If you have a company, ladies and gentlemen, like I talked about the Cayman Islands being your company, let's get back to a smaller franchise, which again helps to make it micro, make it a little bit easier to understand. You're in the fried chicken business, right? And I have a friend who wants to open a fried chicken business. I want you to understand some of the things that would be employed. Like I might come and knock at your door and ask you if I could get a job with you helping to fry your chicken. Well, that's a good guy. Surely he couldn't mean anything bad because he wants to come fry chicken for me. No, you would be very foolish to think that just because I'm coming to fry chicken for you, that I'm your friend. I have an objective. Now I can also get in there, and if somebody wants to stop you and thwart your business, they're not going to come to you and say to you, oh, by the way, I'm really trying to shut you down because I want to help my friend who's going to open a fried chicken business. They're not going to do that. Because you would say, thanks for enlightening me. Well, you're fired. No, so they're going to come to you with all sorts of things. It might be something like, sorry to report this. And bear with me. I'm just pulling these things out of my hat. I haven't had time to think about it. Boss, I got to just report to you that I think something's wrong with the deep fryer. I can put it on low today. And I'm going to put it on full broil because, something kind of sick with it. I'm going to try to see if we can get the people in here to fix it. But what's the real reason that I'm doing that? Not because I care about you. In fact, I'm lying. What I'm trying to do is to lower your output for this week, right? And I think you all understand where I'm trying to go. And I say the same thing when I talk about the government. When I was an elected official, I want you to understand I'm going a roundabout way because, one, we got time, and two, to make sure I do it comprehensively.
You have 7 minutes.
Sat in the conference room with the governor. His name was Duncan Taylor. And we were in a situation where we needed to get remedies very quickly. And his answer was, no, we're not allowed that to happen. And I can tell you, at least for myself in the room, I know you did not have time for an 8, 9, 10-month RFP process. You don't have time for that. You can't tell me, Austin Harris, that you frying chicken and that I got to run an 8, 9-month RFP process before you can replace the broiler. You'll be out of business. Am I right? You're out of business. It's very simple. So I said to him, Mr. Duncan Taylor, with the greatest respect, you cannot tell me that the United Kingdom operated in war times the same way they did in peacetime. Peacetime, you might have went through all your habeas corpus when you arrested person, let them go within 24 hours, blah, blah, blah. The courts were informed, had to go before the courts, whatever it is. But wartime, you were fencing them off, rounding them up, and pushing them up in the barrel. And I give all that to say, I want you to understand, a lot of these people that are running around, not all of them, some of them are just being misled. And some of them genuinely care. But a lot of this environmental nonsense that you are hearing is precisely for that reason. And I don't want to call names, but if I want to have somebody call me and pressure me to do so, I'll do so. Mm-hmm. Because that's what they're doing. They're protecting their family, they're protecting their friends, and they're protecting certain interests. And again, I'm going to say it on this radio because this is a very good macro one that hopefully will amplify, educate, enlighten, and elevate you on what's happening on a smaller scale as well. We have a whisper, an organization, worldwide organization, that technically wants to shut down the Cayman Islands Turtle Center. You know all you turtle meat eating people? I want to shut it down, and they're actually communicating with our governor's office. And then the governor's office is directing them to potential particular chief officers that they believe may aid them in their cause. I mean, how can that be right? How can that be right? Mm-hmm. Let me just say it again in case I misunderstand. Because again, they'll say, you're trying to carry the country independent. Because I'm saying it's raining doesn't mean I'm calling for a drought. I am telling you what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I'm giving you this because this is a clear example. It's a documented one. You can get it on the FOI. And I'm telling you, if that one's happening, there's other nonsense happening as well. An organization that pretty much makes it clear they do not want to see the Turtle Center operate the way it is operating, technically shut it down, working through our governor's office, and now by extension, arguably saying we're going to get chief officers by the governor's recommendation, or sorry, governor's office recommendations, and working to shut the Turtle Center down. And so I'm going to give you the same thing happening about the piers. Okay? In this country right now, every single company benefits from piers. Every cruise ship that comes here will benefit from piers. Russian roulette being played by anchors dropping out in the middle of Georgetown, like 2014 when 16,000 square feet of reef were damaged. The reef benefits by piers. Mm-hmm. There's only one company that does not benefit with piers, and that's the tender business. And if you go and check a lot of these little beehive community groups that you see running around making noise about the piers, I hang out with the same people at the Sunset House, okay? I hang out with the same, I hung out playing dominoes. And that's all good. But at the end of the day, at some point in time, we need to put the country first. We need to put the country first. Got a call, going to go straight to the phone lines. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Oh, they didn't stick around.
They didn't stick around.
Encourage you to call back, 745-2626.
I had someone, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had someone who sent this text, says, we have a lot of talent in people who try to get elected and people who are no longer elected. And yet you see them ostracized and victimized for the only evil of having wanted or having actually served their country.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, no, very well said. Very well said. 745-2626 is the number if you want to call in and add your 2 cents to our ongoing discussion. Let's see, the caller is back. Let's go to the phone lines. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Good evening, Austin. Good evening, Ellio.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
This is Leon Gold here.
Hello, Mr. Gold.
Good day.
Good day. Just listen to the conversation in regards to turtle farm and the environmental activists that are trying to shut it down. It's interesting the selective choices they make of things that they try to attack. I don't see any of them arguing or creating a fuss about our biggest problem in Cayman right now. One of the biggest problems, I should say. Our biggest environmental problem for sure is the dump.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see any of them, these groups, advocating or championing any movement to solve this problem that we have. It's a growing problem, and it's an elephant in the room that nobody wants to address.
Mm-hmm.
They're arguing about the piers, they're arguing about the turtle farm, trying to shut these things down about the east-west arterial, but they're ignoring the elephant in the room, which is that dump.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of seepage happening that is going out into the North Sound. I intend to do a FOI to find out what the water quality in the North Sound is like. I don't know how often they test that water quality, but one of my friends reached out, a very well-known person in the community, and asked that I request a FOI to see what the water quality is like out there, because that dump is definitely seeping into our waters.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody is talking about it. I don't understand. I've listened to some of these yard meetings. You hear people talking about traffic, and you hear them talking about
30 seconds, caller.
Different issues, but nobody brings up the topic of the dump.
Yeah.
Anyway, I won't keep you. I just thought that was an interesting point.
All right.
No, thank you very
Mr.
much.
Gould.
And I'm grateful, really grateful, for the segue, because it is and was on our agenda today to discuss that, and it is also in the news. It is an important topic, and to the caller's point, it is the elephant in the room. The single greatest environmental threat to the Cayman Islands is not to building a port, either for the hotel or for Hawkesbury Bay, but what is happening in our landfill, of which there is no future plan on the table or anywhere on the horizon to fix. But we do need to pause and take a short commercial break. Once again, check in with the news brought to you by the BBC. But the phone lines are open, 745-2626. We got a half an hour still to go right here on Straight Talk, brought to you by Bobo FM.
With you in mind, we have your style. Find what you need down every aisle. You want saving, selection, and quality. That's why we're your home store. Home store. A.L. Thompson's. The way to make a home. The way to make a home.
Have your engine driving like never before with Pure 93, the highest pure octane fuel in Cayman, and available exclusively at Rubis service stations. Pure 93 protects against engine knock, restores lost power and acceleration, cleans fuel injectors, intake valves, removes engine deposits, improves your fuel economy, and it meets international specification requirements for your car. Fill up with Pure 93 now and keep your engine running like new. Fuel the difference with Pure 93, available exclusively at Rubis.
Are you experiencing any of these symptoms? Feeling very thirsty, feeling tired, unexplained weight loss, cuts or wounds that heal slowly, blurred vision, urinating more often, particularly at night? These are not all, but some of the symptoms of diabetes. Start with a simple test to assess your blood sugar levels. If you're 35 or older, especially if you're overweight, screening is crucial. Early action can prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Call Integra Healthcare at 745-7450 and book with endocrinologist Dr. Pramod. Or for more information, go to integra.ky.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
I'm Stuart McIntosh with the BBC News. Hello. President Zelensky of Ukraine was told to leave the White House early after talks with Donald Trump broke down acrimoniously. A planned news conference was cancelled and the proposed deal giving US access to Ukraine's minerals wasn't signed. In dramatic exchanges before the world's media, President Trump bluntly told his Ukrainian counterpart that he was gambling with a third world war. Tom Bateman reports from Washington.
The moment that rankled most with President Trump was when Mr. Zelensky tried to make clear that the US rushing into a ceasefire without securing Ukraine could embolden Mr. Putin, and that this, in the end, risked the conflict reaching the US. "You're going to feel it," he said. "Don't tell us what we're going to feel," said Mr. Trump. "You're in no position to dictate that." Mr. Zelensky's ambassador to Washington was spotted with her head in her hand as the argument in the Oval Office escalated.
Following the chaotic meeting between the two presidents, the European Union Foreign Policy Chief, Kaja Kallas, said it's become clear that the free world needs a new leader. Most other European leaders joined in expressing their support for Ukraine, as Bethany Bell reports.
President Macron said Russia was the aggressor. He said that the Europeans, the United States, the Canadians, Japanese and many others had been right to help Ukraine and sanction Russia. Germany's outgoing Chancellor Olaf Scholz said no one wanted peace more than the citizens of Ukraine. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said each division of the West made everyone weaker. She called for an immediate summit between the US, European states and allies to discuss Ukraine and other challenges.
A spokesman for the British Prime Minister said Keir Starmer had spoken to both President Trump and Zelensky and that Mr. Starmer was doing all he could to find a path forward to a lasting peace based on sovereignty and security for Ukraine. The Vatican says the Pope, who's been in hospital with double pneumonia for 2 weeks, has had another breathing crisis. Until now, the 88-year-old pontiff's condition had seemed to be improving. From the Vatican City, Sarah Rainsford has the details.
The Vatican says this afternoon Pope Francis had what it called an isolated crisis, a lung spasm that left him suddenly struggling to breathe. The Pope's lungs have been cleared. He is now getting extra oxygen through a face mask, and Vatican sources say he is alert and in what they call good spirits. Doctors treating the Pope had said his condition had improved slightly in recent days, and the word critical disappeared from Vatican statements. Now, the medical team say they need a day or two to understand whether this latest episode has left any lasting damage.
You're listening to the latest world news coming to you from the BBC. Lebanon's new Prime Minister, Nawaf Salam, has demanded a full Israeli withdrawal from the south of his country. Israeli troops still occupy 5 hilltop positions in contravention of a ceasefire that came into force in November. Israel says it's protecting its northern border because Hezbollah operatives are still active in the area. Mr. Salam said he was gathering outside support to force Israel to completely pull out. Bosnia's international high representative has accused Bosnian Serb leaders of trying to destabilise the country, saying they risked undermining the Dayton Accords, the agreement that ended the 1990s civil war. Christian Schmidt was responding to moves by the autonomous Serbian part of the state, known as Republika Srpska, to pass laws blocking the work of the Bosnian police and courts. The former Mexican gang leader, Rafael Caro Quintero, has pleaded not guilty to drug trafficking charges in the United States, a day after being extradited. He's one of 29 suspects handed over to the US in the biggest single-day extradition of Mexican nationals. Leonardo Rocha reports.
Mr. Caro Quintero, who's 72, appeared at a New York federal court in Brooklyn. His lawyer entered on his behalf the not guilty plea to drug trafficking charges. Mr. Caro Quintero served nearly 3 decades in prison in Mexico for the murder of a U.S. drugs enforcement agent in 1985. His release in 2013 angered the United States. He was rearrested 3 years ago and extradited on Thursday with a group of other alleged drug lords.
The government in Senegal says the former president, Macky Sall, will be prosecuted after the National Audit Office said it had found irregularities in the Treasury's bookkeeping when he was in office. A spokesman said Mr. Sall was the person chiefly responsible for the extremely serious acts that were committed. BBC News.
Views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo FM.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Straight Talk with your two favorite talk show hosts, Austin Harris and myself, Ellio Solomon. It is that magic number, 606, here in the studio, giving us about 24 minutes of action.
Indeed.
If you'd like to call us, give us a call on 745-2626. That's 745-2626. Or what are we texting, Austin? What's that number, Austin?
Or you can certainly WhatsApp us at 928-2562. Regrettably, the technical issues that started our show have not left us, and that just makes Murphy's Law sense. So we have to, if you're going to WhatsApp us, it's got to be a typical WhatsApp text message, or pick up the phone and give us a call. I want to pick up where that last caller left us off, because he was absolutely 1,000.
Most unfortunate he had to leave us. But
it was, well, most unfortunate, and it was our fault. We had to go to the break, and
right.
If he's certainly out there and wants to continue, then
Feel
by
free.
all means,
Yep.
745-2626. But we will pick up where he left off. He's right. The single greatest environmental hazard and risk to this country is our landfill site, most commonly known as Mount Trashmore. And in today's Cayman Compass, they have a front page article on this very subject saying Mount Trashmore continues to grow with no solution in sight. Just over 130,000 tons of trash.
How much?
130,000 tons of trash went into the landfill, Georgetown landfill, last year. That is equivalent to 600 blue whales. Now, blue whales is the largest mammal on the planet.
I was inferring.
Certainly that's the equivalent of 600 of them, presumably side by side and not end to end, but you get the picture. The clock is ticking on the lifespan of this site, which, according to the technocrats, again, that's another moving goalpost, is now at 10 to 11 years, but 4 or 5 years ago, it was 4 or 5 years to go. But in any respect, or whoever you're asking, it is going to, one day it go over, as the Jamaicans would say, and there is no plan in place. Both the PACT administration, which started with Premier Wayne Panton, and the UPM governments, which of course is led by the Honourable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, cancelled the Regen project. Though I will say, I can't really dump that blame on the Premier and at least one other minister, because it was said in the media that both the Honourable Premier and the Honourable Minister for Border Control, Dwayne John Seymour, were engaging in backroom deals to, save or salvage the Regen contract. But at the end of the day, 4 years have come and gone, and we are no further ahead at solving or tackling or finding a solution to the Georgetown landfill. Under the Regen project, it would have replaced the landfill as we know it with a waste-to-energy plant, which presumably would have also served to reduce our energy bills, along with a suite of recycling and composting facilities and options, which again would allow us to reuse our trash that we generate in this country for something more positive. Again, all of those opportunities are off the table. And to add insult to injury, the country could very well spend upwards of $38 million to exit a project that has not been able to leave the drawing board. And, you know, Ellio, I liken this conversation going back to the whole cruise berthing historical context. In today's status quo, those who are against cruise berthing say, well, there's not enough information. There's no idea what the plan does include. There's not enough information on who's going to pay for it. But just 4 years ago, 2017 to 2021,
they had too much information.
They had too much information. There was a plan, there was a drawing, there was a confirmation who would pay for it, and it still wasn't good enough. Likewise, we have been talking about this landfill issue, the single greatest threat to our environment, bar none, in the Cayman Islands, for 25 years, if not more. And when there is a plan in place, someone to pay for that plan, and an otherwise derived benefit from that plan, we still can't get it to leave the page. It baffles the mind.
It's a bunch of showstoppers, Austin. This is what it is, you know. And it's like, these are people that are. I'm not telling you things I don't know. I listen to the chat every day. They're self-proclaimed socialists, and they are showstoppers. At the end of the day, it's about simply they don't do anything, but they sure try hard to stop everything from happening. You know, I laid out one of our meetings. I think, it was in East End. She said a very good point, and I can't capture it quite the way she did. But it was basically, why is it that we as Caymanians, we can go all over the world and we can see them running boats on top of a bridge and waterfalls coming out of a building, and we enjoying it, but you can't get nothing done in Cayman? And I said to myself,
boy,
wow. Did you hit it on the? Did you hit the nail on the head?
God, absolutely, very, very, very well said.
I mean, how pathetic? How pathetic are we that we can't move a dump?
Yeah.
We really?
No, it's ridiculous.
And you know, and then here, you know, it reminds me of a brother of mine. I only did the law half day school on Fridays. He finished, but you know, it's like he says, they just keep throwing crap at the walls and see what sticks. Yeah. Let me give you one. I came to my mind just when you were starting to read. The Vote No group,
yes,
the CPR group, the Sustainable Cayman group, whatever those showstoppers are, they come up and they said, oh, well, another reason the cruise ship shouldn't be here is the exhaust coming out of the cruise ships.
From the smokestacks.
From the smokestacks. And then I'm saying to myself, no, you know what the leeward side is, right? The leeward side is, okay, the windward side is where the wind is coming from, right? This is the leeward side. So in other words, when there's smoke coming out of a cruise ship stack, right?
Yes.
It's heading away from us.
Exactly, out to sea.
So you're going to complain about that, but meantime, so you see is burning diesel all day, all night, and it's on the windward side.
Yes.
Everybody has to breathe that one.
Yes.
And no complaints.
No, and when the landfill catches on fire.
Yeah.
That's another problem.
Tell me about it.
Can't hear a peep. You know, it is truly, utterly ridiculous. But to that fantastic, lovely woman from East End who made that valuable
trust me.
point, I will say to her what a senior politician who is still in office and will remain nameless said to me, somebody that I look up to. He says, you cannot run a country by referendum. And in the United States, you don't have that. We go to the polls every 4 years to elect leaders who will lead us to, hopefully, our next golden horizon. But if you don't trust them to lead, or if they don't have the capacity to lead unless they go to you and ask permission, after you've given that permission by electing them, then why do we have elections in the first place? Why do we have 19 members when 7 could do the job? But you cannot, in some cases, well, in all cases, you cannot grow a country, you cannot lead by referendum. And that's the reason why you have democracy in elections. And again, we can't seem to get any further ahead on the issues that trouble us, because no matter what is proposed, this is what I was saying last week, no matter what is proposed in this country, and I challenge anyone to pick any issue and tell me where we get unanimous, unobjective support. There was always going to be someone somewhere, whether it be the persons in the bushes throwing rocks or whether it be the organizations protecting their own little piece of capital market. And again, we talk about those that are obviously, you know, for and against the dock, whatever the case may be, you know, hiding behind other groups saying their environment, but really you're protecting your business interest. But there is always going to be the negative voices. And we accept that. We have to accept that, just like development.
We should.
You build a sandcastle, you're going to destroy something. You build a house, you're going to destroy something. You build a hotel, you're going to destroy something. But what are the economic benefits by having this or not having it? Listen, I agree completely with, you know, protecting the environment, because I believe climate change is real. But I also believe there are ways in which to mitigate the negative destruction when building necessary infrastructure. But without a doubt, there is going to be some loss, and hopefully the pros outweigh the cons. But in this town, whether it be education, whether it be landfill, whether it be tourism, whether it be what development is good enough and what shouldn't happen, what shouldn't be built, there is never unanimous support. But we keep spinning our wheels on that basis because we cannot get behind any one thing.
You know, yeah, you see the same thing happening everywhere. You know, it's like the beach erosion thing, right? It's like, guys, I mean, yeah, it would have been good if many years ago they said, hey, don't build on the beach side, build on the other side. Yeah, that would have been perfect, but that didn't happen. But listen, I'm understanding that there's a proposal out there to say, by the way, the sand that we lost is right here. We just need to break this up and pump it back on the shore. And we're being held up from doing this?
Yes.
It's like, what are we saying?
Yeah.
And then we're talking about the Hyatt. Let's be clear about something, okay? I grew up in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I remember walking there as a kid. The old Pageant Beach Hotel, it burnt down. By the way, that's what happened to most businesses when it didn't work properly.
Mm-hmm.
They all have a mysterious fire.
Surprisingly, yeah. Apparently it happens to boats and catamarans in this country, too. It mysteriously caught on fire. Yeah. But thank God for that insurance money, though.
No matches, no nothing. I don't know how this happened.
I digress.
Anyway, yeah. Bottom line is, I grew up in that area, right? I remember seeing the burnt-up hotel. We had the wreck of the Kama. You know, parked there for how many years? Maybe 30 years, 40 years. You know, the fish thrives on it. Yeah, come on. I mean, really?
Yeah.
We can't build a little dock.
You know? Right.
There was a pool. There was some kind of a pool there that was left and the water had completely taken it. It's like, really?
Yeah.
It's like every single thing that you go to do. And don't get me wrong. Honestly, I consider myself an environmentalist. I consider myself a lover of the environment. But this is like, I don't know what's really 100% driving this, but considering that most of those people are now openly calling themselves socialists, this might have something to do with it. You know, it's like I just hate anyone that thinks they have money or have money. You know, but honestly, it's like this is a serious problem. I really can't see where you're going to have an issue with this dock. The hotel can't build a dock. They can't build the piers. They cancel the regen project with the dump. All this just makes absolutely no sense to me.
No, indeed.
What exactly are we going forward with, by the way? Are we going forward with anything?
Nothing. No, that's the point that the company was making. And certainly there is no alternative solution in place. But we do know and we do accept that property, Mount Trashmore, the landfill, will expire, will outlive its useful shelf life in 10 years.
And see, this
then what?
This is what I'm saying. And again, I'm going to be on my horn about the jobs for Caymanians only. I brought a piece of legislation. It is amendment in the law since 2013. Since 2013 to now, nobody's implemented it. But of course, a priority item. Austin, where's the green bill? Yeah, anti-sexual harassment law. You see, here's what is a priority. Get every company to write it down in all their books. Cut a couple more. Get some lawyers. Because somebody could be saying something inappropriate to a man or a woman. Yeah. You know, it's like I'm saying, yeah, I'm not saying probably doesn't serve a spot, but I think getting Caymanians jobs so they aren't begging in the streets or having to fly to England to get on the dole.
Yes.
I don't know, but I think that's a priority.
Indeed.
Is it just me who thinks that's a priority?
Not just you at all.
When I'm seeing young Caymanians posting that the Caymanian dream is to move somewhere else.
And that, unfortunately, that is that's a growing sense. I mean, I hear it in my own son. That's how close to home it is to me.
Okay, there you go.
You know what I mean?
There's no future here for me.
No, that's how they feel. And if we do not build that future, if we do not put in place the necessary infrastructure or grow our economy in order to meet future demands, then yes, that's exactly what they're going to feel like. A writer writes in on WhatsApp saying, yes, the environmental risk to the Cayman Islands, the greatest environmental risk to the Cayman Islands is the landfill. But what about the human factor? There are studies that will say, that will link brain cancer and bladder cancer and leukemia to how close you live to a landfill, whether it be taking in the toxins, the methane, or whether, of course, you're breathing in the smoke that comes when this landfill occasionally and more often than not catches on fire. They go on to point out several cancers have been implicated, but there's been no consistent pattern that has emerged. But everyone acknowledges, much like they do with power lines, that there is a correlation. And in this instance, it's not just the environmental hazards that you have to worry about and having no solution for a landfill, but the human implications that go along with it. And again, to whether it be the caller's point or, what we seem to find so passionate to object about, there's nobody objecting to this. There's nobody protesting this. And it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But again, if you don't understand what the big picture issues are, if you have leaders who are more interested in talking about each other than they do about the issues that obtain, when you have proposed or wannabe candidates that are quite happy to identify what the status quo is, but are very short in terms of what the alternative solutions are, we have to vote much, much, much more carefully.
Yeah.
And certainly we need to vote, not with our immediate pocketbook in mind, but we have to be bigger than that.
Yeah.
We have to be bigger than that. And there was a time in this country when nobody had to tell anybody this. It just came natural. But somehow, somewhere along the lines, we have changed into and I use my good friend Eddie Murphy, what have you done for me lately, Eddie mentality, as opposed to what have you done for us lately.
So let me give you a message on this one. And when I talked about jobs for Caymanians many years ago, I remember getting a lot of resistance. One young Caymanian later got up. She tried to ream me a new one. Then, sorry if I caused you to lose your water.
Almost.
And then,
it almost went all over the board.
And then in addition to that, you had the Compass writing an editorial. But let me just be clear about something. Whether you are a Caymanian today by birth, generational Caymanian, a Caymanian by paper, or even one of those persons who aspire to be a Caymanian, you should be concerned about these issues, right?
Absolutely.
You should be supporting certain jobs for Caymanians only. Because let me tell the voters, when you go into the polls, at least one or two things you should be looking for. It clearly has to be, and don't worry about Ayn Rand wrote a book, The Virtue of Selfishness. It is a selfishness, but it's a good one when you are voting for persons who are going to say, that you're saying, I want you to make sure that we have a good economy that's going to be able to create jobs for me and my husband, for me, my husband and my children. That's a good one. Asking them for $5,000 because my dog died or some nonsense like that doesn't quite cut it. Dig a hole in the backyard and bury the thing.
That's right.
Okay, but getting out there and saying, I'm looking for someone who is going to get the economy up, lower the cost of living so I can actually buy more food for myself and my family. Or at least the food that I'm buying can cost me $100 or $200 less. These are all good.
My wages aren't going up. Let my current dollar go further.
Right. These are all things that are good. Again, asking for knee operations in a couple of blocks just to finish your foundation, that's not going to cut it.
No, that's selfish.
No,
that's
that is just complete selfishness, and you're in short-sightedness.
Yes.
What is good selfishness is saying, I need a candidate that's going to get up. There's a law that's been there since 2013 that says certain jobs could be earmarked for Caymanians only, and my little daughter's thinking about going to England because she can't even get a job as a receptionist. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Right? It's a good one to say, I need to make sure that I can get a job. So what are you doing to better the economy? Yeah. You see, that macro thing that works good for you and works good for everyone.
Yeah.
That's one. And being able to get up, and I'll throw my cruise tourism in there.
Sure.
Why should you want to support cruise tourism for good selfishness? Because I can tell you why. Because if you don't support cruise tourism, one of the things is you will have at least 2,587 Caymanians without a job. And when 2,587 Caymanians are without a job, who do they go to for a job? Other than perhaps England, we're going to come to the government. And who is the government? The government is your tax-paying money.
That's right.
So don't complain now when, you know, oh, well, why did this passport cost so much?
Yeah.
My God, my helper's permits doubled.
Yeah.
Oh, well, my food's going up.
Right.
Well, that's why. Government's now paying
Yeah.
for 2,000. You did that during COVID, right?
Yes.
You had to pay out to 5,000 people.
Incredible sums of money. But it was, you know, again, you take the responsibility, look after those you can when you have to.
But you had to.
Yes.
But not because you deliberately sat there.
Correct.
And let the peers or let the
brought
crews
it on yourself and encouraged it.
Right. In your case, COVID brought it on during your administration, and you had to support 5,000 people.
Yeah.
Here we have a chance to say, for God's sakes, I don't want anyone taking food off my table. Why don't you leave that guy alone? Let him eat his food.
Yeah.
You know, we need to understand the
Good
implications of all these things.
Good example.
And so if we don't like the high permit fees, we don't like the duties on cars and all the other stuff and all the expenses, nobody tells you that you're paying a 22% tax on food.
Right.
But I think they should.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you could see that this particular item was going to cost you $10, but no, it's actually costing you $12.22 because of the tax, then maybe you might start being a bit more conscious of the tax, right?
Sure, absolutely.
And then why are we getting the tax?
Yeah.
Well, because you did nothing about the 2,587 people that needed a job.
That's right.
Because you did nothing about the dump.
Yeah.
Because you did nothing about this. That's why we're paying, just on food.
Yes.
Just on food.
Sure.
22% more. That's not to mention the permits. That's not to mention any of that. That's just on the food. That's why you're paying it.
That's right.
And then, so when you hear all these people jumping from behind the bushes, claiming to be environmentalists, you know, sent straight down from heaven to save us from ourselves, because we're cutting down 2 trees to build a house, or because somebody wants to build a dock, or somebody wants to build a pier, which is common sense. Every little boat should dock up by a pier somewhere. Just please remember why, or the fact that you are paying for all of this, and you're going to be paying for it in the future. How long have we been talking about a dump? What's the benefits? It's killing people with stench in our own personal neighborhoods. It is a wonderful mountain to show our tourists, and they're having to smell it because, again, remember, the dump, like CUC, is on the windward side.
The windward.
The wind carries it to you. That's the windward side. Okay? So this makes no sense, ladies and gentlemen. It is a bad impression for the tourists. Outside of looking like a mountain, it is a bad first impression. And let me say, they criticize the cruise tourism, right? Well, this is for your stay-over visitors. What a way to welcome them. What a wonderful stench to put a nice, lovely dump on the windward side of your stay-over visitors.
Sure. First thing they see from their otherwise lofty perch on the cruise ship.
And smells a lot worse than it looks.
It is 6:28 and gives us about 30 seconds left. I want to say thank you to all of our listeners, our callers. I want to thank the guests we were fortunate to host this week and the conversations we were able to have. These are the issues that truly impact all of our lives, and it is Ellio and my pleasure to be able to host them and bring them to you. But that's all the time we have for today. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon. See you on Monday right here on Straight Talk.
Right here at Bobo FM.
The BBC on Bobo. This is the BBC World Service. Across Cayman on Bobo FM.